So, okay, I kind of lost my train of thought, but that's probably a good thing. Let's see. I'm sorry if I didn't say hello to anybody here. David, yes, and okay. I'm sorry if I missed anyone. Sue Ellen. All right. So the 6:16 a.m. ping, and what does it mean? So, guys, my goal is to look at all this information with you, and maybe together we can determine what we think it means. I'm not trying to shove anything down your throat by any means. So, okay, so there isn't important information regarding exactly what a ping is. And I don't want to go all over all of that again for people that have already watched the part 1 of this series. So if you do want to catch that another time, here's the link right here for you, okay? So here's just an explanation of the data, the sources, and the limitations of what we're looking at. So we will be looking at the original Watts Discovery phone records. The date range of the phone records we will be sourcing is July 14th through August 13th, 2018, guys. Keep in mind this date range as we review the material. For example, this is where this might come into play and cause a misunderstanding if we don't keep this in mind. We know that Chris Watts' Mistress' phone records reveal 4 dates her Verizon network phone pinged in Frederick, Colorado. However, within this date range, July 14th to August 13th, 3 pings were transmitted from Frederick, Colorado. One of the known pings occurred on July 4th, which is obviously not within the date range of July 14th to August 13th, and that's what we'll be reviewing today. So say if, I said 3 pings in the context of the date range for today, I will surely get emails or comments or something. Oh no, there were 4. You don't know the discovery. It's because we're looking at the specific date range, okay? We will discuss the accuracy of a phone ping, and particularly in this scenario. A phone ping is very accurate and precise, but has limitations, of course it does, that we will discuss further. So Chris Watts' Mistress, NK, or Miss Kessinger, I'm trying to call her, pinged off a Frederick, Colorado tower on August 13th, 2018. Guys, why is this significant? Let me try to spell it out for you here. So number 1, NK's phone pinged in Frederick, Colorado only 4 times during the 6-week period when her records were looked at. And in total, this is July 4th, July 14th, July 18th, and August 13th. And guys, we're going to get really deep into this pretty soon. I think it's going to be some interesting stuff. Number 2, the morning of August 13th is when Chris Watts' family went missing. Shanann was last captured on camera early that morning at 1:48 a.m. 3, a ping is a communication regarding location of the phone that the ping is connected to. It should say there, relative to a cellular tower, or actually more precisely, guys, it'd be relative to a cellular antenna that serves the carrier that user is subscribed to. Okay, but that's very specific. Number 4, the location of the tower that NK's phone pinged off of combined with the location of the other towers with Verizon antennas narrows down the possibilities of what this ping means. So please remember, this is not the only piece of incriminating information that has been put out there regarding Miss Kessinger's possible knowledge of involvement in, after the fact participation in this horrific tragedy that happened, when the world lost beautiful Shanann Watts, Bella Watts, Les Watts, and the unborn Nico Watts. Terrible, horrendous tragedy. So getting right, whoops, not that far into it though. So now remember, the date range that we are looking at is July 14th to August 13th. So we're going to go through page by page of the cell phone records, okay? So again, we're trying to talk about super pertinent facts here, things that make a difference, not like types of cell phone towers and types of just things that are relevant. Let's like stick to the facts. So here's the first page of that July 14th to August 13th cell phone bill range, and it covers July 14th to July 21st. So on the next page, we're just going to look at this a little differently, and it's marked up. Okay, so there are a couple things that I want to pay attention to. Well, first of all, let's look at the red circles here. So the first red circle is circling where it says Frederick, Colorado, in regards to the July 14th phone call. I think it's at 9:36 a.m. I need my spectacles on to see that. That is on this phone bill, guys, one of the 3 times that the mistress's phone pings in Frederick, Colorado. The other red circle that is a little more than halfway down the page is when the phone pinged in Frederick, Colorado on July 18th. Now, when the phone pinged in Frederick, Colorado on July 18th, Chris Watts' phone, that was when Chris Watts called his mistress's phone, and his phone also pinged in Frederick, Colorado on July 18th. There is some story that has been told about them obtaining some touch-up paint for her car, for her, Ford Runner, and that is why she was in that area of Frederick, Colorado. Now, in regards to July 14th, 2018, that first red circle up there, we know on that date that Nicole Kessinger picked Chris Watts up at his home on 2825 Saratoga Trail, and then she also dropped him off there later that date. I won't go too much into it because every time we mention the date, I start to talk about it. I've made a few videos about this. I would love for you to watch them because I think it's really important. It was on that date she went into the house, and by her own account, she said she saw a picture of Shanann and one of the girls and thought, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. And, realized that, gosh, like her boyfriend already has everything. Why would he want to be with her? And she by her own description says it was on this date, and nobody really believes this, that she started to try to convince Chris Watts that he ought to repair things with his wife so they could save their marriage and he could continue on with their beautiful life regardless of how that affected her, right? I don't know. So when we're looking at just this page from the NK phone bill from July 14th to August 13th, I want you to notice a couple of things. So in blue, that's going to point to phone calls with Chris Watts. Yellow will point to phone calls with her friend Jim. And the reason I chose those colors, you're going to see in a couple pages, that is how law enforcement noted her calls with either the friend Jim or with Chris Watts. Now, we got to think about, let me just show you here, just the fact that law enforcement, like right here, went so far as to organize her phone calls with Chris Watts, who is the suspect or soon to be the person charged with murdering his family. Of course, they're going to really highlight her communications with him. The fact that they also really highlighted her communications with her friend Jim, I think that says something to us about the importance of those communications with her friend Jim. Okay. So let's not get too far ahead here. Okay. So in this date range again, guys, just to summarize where we're at so far, from July 14th to August 13th, there are a total of 3 occurrences of NK's cell phone with Verizon service pinging in Frederick, Colorado. 2 of them are seen right here, and they are both accounted for right here based on what Watts and his mistress have reported to law enforcement. So now the longest call bit over to the side. So highlighted in blue, you see it says the longest call that is to CW, and I'm talking about on this page, on this bill, is 44 minutes, and I'm pointing to it, okay? The longest call on this page at all is to Jim, and that's a 75-minute call. Now, I'm going to tell you, just, having gone through all of this information and having looked at it closely, this 75-minute call is the second longest call, second only to the 111-minute phone call that happened the night before, the morning going into, when Shanann Watts arrived home from Arizona when her flight was delayed on August 12th, going into August 13th, when they had that really long 111-minute phone conversation that she could remember nothing about, okay? So when I listen to other channels or I read the comments on my own channel or I just hear people talking about this issue, people will say, oh, well, they were on the phone forever, for like hours and hours all the time, like a 111-minute phone call. That was like the norm for them. Guys, what I'm showing you is that no, it was not. It was not the norm. A 111-minute phone call was not the norm at all, okay? So when we're looking at this date range, July 21st to July 26th, the longest phone call that Miss Kessinger had with anybody was 54 minutes, and that call was to Chris Watts, and there it is, okay? So my notes here are, notice Miss Kessinger's phone does not, it should say does not, I cut that off there, does not connect with or ping off any antennas in Frederick, Colorado in the state range. Also notice the longest call between Watts and NK is 54 minutes, and that is the longest call on this page of the phone bill. Okay, there you said that, pretty straightforward. So again, here we see how law enforcement considered Jim to be important enough that they color-coded Miss Kessinger's communications with him right alongside her communications with Chris Watts, who is either the prime suspect of or charged with, at this point, charged with triple plus homicide. Which, for anybody who is curious and, is a little miffed about this Kessinger case or issue, I personally think he's right where he belongs. I think that he, there's no words. Okay, so the next date range in this phone bill, that is July 14th through August 13th, are the dates of July 26th through July 31st. So here you see the longest call in this date range is 39 minutes. And that phone call is between her and Watts. It says to Watts, but I did not look into who made the phone call. That's just kind of a not as much attention details I would have liked to have put into here. I'll eventually change it. But it's a 39-minute call with Watts. And that is on July 30th. And that is the day that he leaves for North Carolina, correct? Pretty sure it is. It's that or the 31st. So when we are then looking at the next page of her phone bill, that's going to be covering the dates August 1st through August 8th. So again, here, what I noted that I think is important is we see the longest call is 52 minutes, and that is a phone call between Miss Kessinger and Chris Watts. Okay, so now we are into a portion of the phone records that is most critical. So this portion of her phone bill records her calls, at least her voice calls, or her voice record, I should say. There's voice over data, so this is voice, not data, obviously. The dates August 9 through August 13th. So here you'll see I prominently have pointed out that 6:16 a.m. ping that is in question. And then I also noted on this page, the next longest call, and next to the 111-minute phone call, is to Watts, and that's a 51-minute phone call. So we have the 51-minute phone call. That's the longest call on this page of the bill. If we go back, 52-minute phone call. That's the longest call on this page of the bill. On this page of the phone bill, a 39-minute call. That's the longest call. And then 56 minutes. And then the longest call on this first page was with Jim, and that was 75 minutes. And her longest call with Watts was 44 minutes. Okay, so we're looking at that page of the phone bill that covers August 9th through August 13th, and we see the 6:16 a.m. ping where her phone pings in Frederick, Colorado. Now, this is 1 month billing cycle. So in this 1 month billing cycle, that happens only 3 times. The other 2 times that happens, we can account for it according to what she reported doing and to what Chris Watts reported they were doing. Easy breezy. Okay. So look at all of these calls. And out of all of these calls and all of these places, these calls could ping. They could connect with antennas for her Verizon carrier. It's only happened 3 times that she's pinged in Frederick. But, let's keep looking at the facts. So here on this next slide, we have the 6:16 a.m. ping. We have the fact that NK's longest call, other than the 111-minute phone call, is between herself and Chris Watts, and that's 51 minutes. And that happens on August 11th. And now I'm also pointing out to you guys the 111-minute phone call. Now, what is troubling about the 111-minute phone call is, that it is a 111-minute phone call that, the person having the phone call, Miss Kessinger, when she is asked about it just 3 and 4 days later, can remember literally nothing about it. What also is notable about that 111-minute phone call is, I'm going to go over the next page to look at that. The 111-minute phone call was much longer than even the 3 longest phone calls after that 111-minute phone call, which was 51 minutes, 52 minutes, and 54 minutes, respectively. That's shy of an hour. That's a lot less than 111 minutes. So it is not true. We cannot assert that a phone call as long as 111 minutes was typical, because it was not typical at all. The highly unusual 111-minute phone call was the last activity immediate, or you could say this different ways. I said it this way on purpose. It was the last activity, or it was the activity that immediately preceded. It was right next to, it was, synchronistic with, on the space-time continuum, that 6:16 a.m. ping in Frederick, Colorado from Miss Kessinger's phone. So when we are looking at all of these things together, because, we aren't just picking data points out robotically, but we are using our brains to synthesize all this information just as law enforcement, you think, would ostensibly do, we see that this highly unusual 111-minute phone call, of the contents of which she has no recollection of, happens right next to the 6:16 a.m. ping in Frederick, Colorado, which is another highly unusual activity, because as we just went over, during this phone billing cycle, there's only 3 occurrences of her phone connecting with that tower in Frederick, Colorado. And in total, of all of the phone records that they have from her, there's only 4 total, the additional one being on July 4th, which is not covered in this billing date range. The next thing that we would need to look at, I guess it would really make, okay, so NK's phone pinged in Frederick at 6:16 a.m. So what could that possibly mean? Well, it could put her right there at the scene of the crime. It could mean that, some people have speculated that maybe she was just doing a drive-by, that she knew that, her married boyfriend's wife was coming home just hours before. And remember, Chris Watts had told her that he wasn't going to be coming into the office that morning, but he was going to be reporting somewhere out in the field. So, with her being told all that, knowing all that, and being the very jealous type that I believe she was she maybe just driving by to see what was going on at Saratoga Trail? Some people have speculated on that, and I think we can show that's not the case, and I will be getting to that. But it's also important to know where Chris Watts was during this time. So, according to documents provided by Tony Husky, who was, I can't remember what his precise position was at Anadarko, but he was a person who was able to, he kept these records. He was able to look into these records and was able to access these records if anyone needs to be looked into or any incident needs to be looked into. So, according to the documents provided by Husky, it appears Chris started his work truck at 5:18 a.m. So I pointed that out on Monday, August 13th, 2018, and it remained on at his residence for 27 minutes. It appeared Chris Watts left his residence at 4:45 a.m. and down here it says 4:46. I'm not sure which one it is. And drove 47 miles to an oil well site in Keenesburg, Colorado. So that's Survey 319. Chris Watts arrived in Keenesburg at 6:53 a.m. So when you're looking at this timeline of what was Chris Watts up to that morning, that 6:16 ping would happen, half an hour after Watts apparently left Saratoga Trail and, a little over half an hour before he arrives at Survey 319. So, right in the middle of that, all of that. Get another drink of water. And, so, okay. So shortly after that phone call, and then I'm going to be getting right back to those things. Oops. This is the last time that Shanann Watts was seen. Okay. She gets out of Nichol Atkinson's car. She goes to the door, and that's it. We never see this beautiful woman again. Okay. So, oops, I better stop there. Also, I'll keep playing sounds. Now, oh, you know what? Something I need to show you from Discovery. Just 1 second here. Let me just pull up the Discovery because I'm going to have to. 1 second here, guys. Just 1 second because it just takes a second to load. I want to have this ready for you when I need it. And yeah. Okay. Well, actually, you know what? Since I'm loading this right now and I'm sort of talking about it, why don't we just talk about this? So the 111-minute phone call, guys, does not appear in the Discovery file other than the fact that record of it existed in that very first rendition of Discovery that Weld County was putting out, that they stopped putting that out very shortly after the discovery file was released. And they replaced it with the next month's phone record, which is bullshit. It's not useful at all. They don't mention it at all. The 111-minute phone call, just wrap your head around this. The 111-minute phone call it exists nowhere in discovery, nowhere. And when you look at the official discovery timeline, it is conspicuously missing. So this is really bothersome. So this is a piece of information in addition to the information about the ping that we need to consider when we are thinking about, okay, is justice complete, or is there more justice to be served in this case? I forgot there was so much on August 12th. Okay, so here starts August 12th. So August 12th was a Sunday, the day before the family went missing. So it does say not found in Watts' phone. Shanann sent him a message and it said, "Good morning, baby. Love you." Now, this is kind of interesting and really very just sad and disgusting. There are people out there that somehow say, NK needs to be further investigated, but Chris Watts is innocent. I don't think that at all. I think the man is exactly where he needs to be. He is far from innocent. And I think that there is substantial proof of that. Whether Weld County did the best job or not, I guess that's debatable, but he's where he needs to be. One of the pieces of evidence that points to the fact that I believe he had a consciousness of guilt, which is a legal indicator of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the standard in a criminal case. Whereas in, some civil cases, the standard would be what a reasonable person would do. In a criminal case, it's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But anyhow, is the fact that there were certain things that were not found in his phone. They were missing. They were deleted. And they were all things that had to do with Shanann and his relationship with Shanann, his marriage to Shanann, and his communication with Shanann. So in the few days before this terrible tragedy happened, he was deleting her communications out of his phone, like he was erasing her out of his life, which hurts me to say, but we have to talk about things for what they are, okay? So as you look at August 12th, 2018, you'll see that there are other things that were not found in his phone having to do with Shanann. I'm not going to go through all those now because that's a different topic. But what I want you to see is during the hours of, later in the evening when that 111-minute phone call happened, there's no record of it here, okay? So 21:09, so that's 9:09 p.m., right? So at 9:09 p.m., Shanann, all the way from Arizona, with a baby growing in her belly, having been treated so poorly by her husband, is saying to him, poor darling, "What kind of vegetables do you want with dinner tomorrow?" And Watts just replies, "Green beans." Not even thank you. "Thank you, baby. Oh, I know. Don't let me take care of it. Why don't you rest your feet? You're 15 weeks pregnant and I've treated you like shit." No, he just, the way this is awful. His treatment of her is despicable. Anyhow, then she says she was ready to come home. Shanann soon told Watts that she was ready to come home. And I think it means he replies, "I'm ready for bed." So here at 9:13, there's another communication. She's saying she's going to be late. And right here, guys, between 21:13, which is 9:13 p.m., and 21:29, which is 11:29 p.m., which is 10 minutes after he got off the phone with Kessinger. And we're going to look at something tonight that happened in that 10 minutes too. That's interesting. There's nothing here on this official timeline. Between these hours of 21:13 or 9:13 and 11:29, there should be listed the 2-hour phone conversation that occurred between Watts and Kessinger that was unlike any other phone conversation they ever had in the history of their communication, according to the phone records. So this right here is a screenshot from the officer Conrad, or Coonrad, however you say his name, from his camera, his body camera, while he was in neighbor Nate's house. And neighbor Nate is, of course, the guy who had all that security camera footage pointed towards Watts' house. What I've circled here in yellow is a screenshot of his security camera menu that is dated at 11:25 p.m. on Sunday, August 12th. And it shows headlights going by the Watts house. So that is most likely, based on what we know about how Nate's security camera works, what triggers it, and when it starts recording, we can safely deduct, I would say. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. I'd be happy to talk about it. Questioning things, you'll learn more about them. We think we can safely say it's that car going by that set off Nate's security camera. So there's a car going by at 11:25 p.m. So this is 6 minutes after his 111-minute phone call with his former mistress ended. And it is 4 minutes before he finally responds to, oh no, she made an unanswered call. So he doesn't even respond. Okay. Yeah. So all we need to know then is it's just a couple minutes after that phone call. And on to the ping. So we combine all of that suspicious information surrounding the ping with the ping itself. So on this slide, you see that I'm pointing out to you where Saratoga Trail is in relationship to where the Frederick Tower is. So the Frederick Tower is that her phone pinged off of. This is important. I almost forgot what I talked about the other night and what I didn't. There is only one cell tower during the year of 2018. And this information wasn't taken from anybody else's material because I haven't found anyone else that's been able to produce the 2018 cell map around Frederick, Colorado, because I actually got it from somebody who still works in that industry, who's the site acquisition firm I used to work from. People don't like you to know where cell towers are. The carriers don't like it, and the landowners who have the antennas or the equipment on their property don't necessarily like people to know it. So it's not information that is necessarily always available to the public in its completeness. So right here, this big red arrow is pointing out the tower that her phone pinged off of, which was the only tower in Frederick, Colorado. I will say that again. In 2018 that had Verizon antennas on it. It was the only one, okay? These towers indicated by the green circle or the red circle are the towers from 2018 that had Verizon antennas on them, because AT&T towers that didn't have Verizon antennas, they don't matter. Because back in 2018, the different carriers didn't do a service share the way that they do now. That started in the United States, I believe, in 2020. But back in 2018, they certainly did do co-location, which simply means that Verizon might go in and put their antennas that will service their customers on a tower that AT&T has built. Because at some point, like, we couldn't keep building freaking cell towers because they take up too much space. There's too many laws and ordinances around where you can build a cell tower because, like, they're, God forbid they fall or something like that. So anyway, so all of that is going on. So, okay, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but this is information that I definitely haven't heard anywhere else, because this is information that I know from working in the industry. So, okay, so Saratoga Trail, the Frederick Tower. Just so you guys get an idea of how close these are to one another. Like I started to say, the Frederick Tower is on a vacant property, or in 2018 it was, next to Pinocchio's Casual Italian Restaurant, okay? So here on the upper left hand, the beginning, we have where Saratoga Trail is, and then it takes this windy, turny route over to where the tower is. So this is a total of 1.6 miles. But when I measured the actual distance between Saratoga Trail and the tower in Google Maps, and also using the scale that's available on that map, I learned that the Watts residents at 2825 Saratoga Trail and that Frederick Tower were 0.89 miles from each other, less than a mile, okay? So now, okay, so here we are. So her phone pinged on this tower. There's no doubt about it. It's 6:16 a.m., Frederick, Colorado, on the morning of 8/13, 2018. The very same moment when Watts' family went missing, okay? So now, how likely is it that ping means that NK was at or really close to the Watts residence? Just trying to think of the best way to have you understand this. I have a couple options for myself in here, just to think about it. Okay. All right. So here we see Saratoga Trail. Here we see the Frederick Tower. Okay. So you see, when we are looking at a map on your screen, whatever you're looking at right now, the Watts residence is to the left of the Frederick Tower that she pinged off of. Okay. It's to the left of it. I'm not going with north, south, east, west, because it's not necessarily in this orientation and it just gets me personally confused. Nature. Anyway. Okay. So when we're looking at the screen here, we see the big red arrow points to the tower that she pinged off of, but the Watts residence is to the left just a little bit, because we're really pulled out in this map here. Now you see along this highway over more to the right of the screen, I have these pictures of Nichol Kessinger from the sand dunes on her sand buggy board, looking all cool. So I put her picture there because this is the route that she'd be taking to work. So she'd be going from her home, which would be, okay, way down here where this red locator is. And then she'll be going over to the right as we're looking in the screen and up this highway, up highway State Route 85, all the way up to Platteville. So this is her route. It's a pretty straight shot. If she goes this way, she just, whoops, she just goes over and up, okay? So let's go back to the one with her pictures on it. So that you're seeing that closer up here, okay? It's just a little portion of that route. Now notice that as she's driving on her route here up Colorado State Highway 85, there are 3 towers that are to the right of that highway that she could have been pinging off of as she drove from her home, up to her work in Platteville via this route. And she is, I don't know if you can see my cursor here, but I'm circling this area right around Fort Lupton. And that's the small little slice that I am picturing on the map here. I'm really trying to break this down for you. So here I have this circled also on this map, but I think that this one is more clear, okay? So now keep in mind that the Watts residence is just a little bit to the left and up of this red arrow tower that she pinged off of. Her route to work typically, and we know this by looking at all of her phone records, because she made calls to Watts and to her friend Jim and other people actually while she was driving to work. And we see that her phone pings off of these various towers, okay? So as she's driving to work, guys, this is a little slice where she might possibly be close enough to ping off this tower that existed in 2018, and it had Verizon antennas for Verizon service on it. But there are these 3 other towers that are closer to the highway that also service Verizon that she could have pinged off of, and she pinged off of them previously and several times.